Welcome to the DIY Goalie podcast, where hosts and goalie coaches Nathan Park and Connor Monday share their insights on how to become a better goalie. Goalies, how are you doing today? Welcome back to another episode of the DIY Goalie podcast, presented by True North Goaltending, with your two hosts, as always, Nathan Park and Connor Monday. And we also have future True North goaltending instructor and probably client too at some point, Emerson Monday, with us as well today. So she might have a few things to say on some of the topics today. But I know Connor's pretty excited for the one that he has. He's got a bunch of passion behind behind what he's going to be talking about today. But thanks again for joining us, guys. We are, I know we've said it for the last couple of weeks, but we do have a couple guests that are going to join us at some point. We have a couple kind of high-level goalie coaches that we are in the works with, but they're still doing stuff with their seasons. So we are kind of going to be putting those on hold for a couple more weeks until their schedules free up a little bit. But we're also looking into some other kind of related but non-goalie people that we'll hopefully bring on for certain topics as well in the near future here. On our side of things too, we do have our new website up and running. It looks a lot more slick than what we've had before. And with it, we also have kind of our new back-end booking platform and system set up and ready to go with some of the cool things that we talked about still in the works, along with like our app that we talked about last week and all that stuff that will be coming out soon. But because we are doing this, there's going to be a lot more focus on getting content out to you guys. So one thing that I'm going to be doing in the near future is really updating our website with drills, because that hasn't been updated lots yet, or in a while, I should say. So that's coming down the pipeline. And so if you want to check out what's new, you can head to truenorthgoaltending.com and keep an eye on that over the next few weeks as the drill library kind of gets built out a little bit more and is a little bit easier to navigate. With that being said, how is it going, Connor? I haven't talked to you in like over a week.
It's been a blissful week, to say that much.
Yeah, I know, right?
Things are going well on my side of things. Like Nathan was saying, lots of exciting stuff happening in the behind the scenes stuff. I do have some guests that I have written down. Just have to reach out to them about getting them on the pod and whatever else. But the list keeps growing by the day.
And we don't knock anybody off the list.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of guests, though, however, I do want to give a quick shout out to previous DIY Goalie podcast guest, third string goaltender for the Minnesota Frost, who played in her first game for the Frost, Marlene Boissonneau. Unfortunately, ended up in a 4-3 overtime loss to the Vancouver Golden Knights, but she played a hell of a game, facing where are my shots here? Facing 24 shots and only allowing 3 in. So, not bad. Not a bad debut for her for the Minnesota Frost.
I thought you said 4 went in.
Oh yeah, well, I mean overtime, but whatever. But
overtime goals still count.
Not in my books. But yeah, no, just congratulations to her. She played well. Unfortunately, the Frost weren't able to pull out the win, but they are in the what's it called? The Walter Cup playoffs now. So they're on their way there. So best of luck to her and them. And yeah, otherwise on my side of things, like I said, not too bad here. Just enjoying time with little Miss Emerson Monday here, and just kind of waiting for things to pick up a little bit on the True North goaltending side of things. But beyond that, we're just cruising.
Yeah, you're gonna have to wait till August before it really picks up. And it's also a good thing we hired Connor for his goalie coaching abilities and not his math abilities. So,
I mean, fair, but
Yeah. All right.
Hurtful, but fair.
Yeah, I mean, overtime goals count as goals against. But anyways, I digress. Uh, so what we're gonna talk about today, I'm kind of gonna talk about, the I guess forcing of technique sometimes that we see happen in the goalie coaching community, and kind of what the issues that arise with that, and kind of how we can kind of work out of situations where we find ourselves facing that. And then Connor's going to kind of talk about some parent stuff on the back end of the episode. So we'll kind of get into that later on. But what I wanted to dive into was, I know Connor's favorite term ever when it comes to goaltending is cookie cutter goalies. And yeah, and
Gross.
we'll get the visceral reaction from that. But as we've kind of talked about a little bit on the podcast before, I mean, there is a little bit of merit to that, to an extent. Like, there's a lot of, I know the term cookie cutter goalie we don't like, but the kind of principle behind it, there's a little bit of merit to that, because there are some times I find where goalies are maybe pushed too much to do specific things, as opposed to kind of finding what works for them and, figuring it out a little bit for themselves. And that's one of the biggest things that I've kind of changed in my approach as I've gone on here as a goalie coach, is embracing a little bit more of the chaos when it comes to practice structure, and trying to get a little bit more randomness, a little bit more of kind of the game like scenarios where there's more variables and stuff, and actually have goalies being able to react and process that and make proper decisions based off of what's developing in front of them. But that being said, there are a lot of coaches, like a lot of goalie coaches out there, that kind of do have the it has to be done this way mentality, and really try and push goalies to, the whole square peg in a round hole type situation, right? The cliche saying where, they're trying to push things on goalies that might not work for them for various reasons. And sometimes I find too that there might be a little too much focus on things that don't make as much of a difference. So if you guys have heard before of the 80-20 rule, where like 20% of your efforts translates to about 80% of your results. The saying of that is kind of like, we need to focus more on the 20% of things that are working and generating 80% of the results. And sometimes I find with some goalie coaches, they focus too much on things that don't make a huge difference, like glove positioning, like fingers up, fingers down, wrist location, whatever, stuff like that, right? Like, yes, obviously we don't want the glove behind our back or facing the ice or anything like that. Like, yes, there is a certain point where, glove position can be hindering. But if a goalie's catching pucks, if a goalie's making saves, we don't need to be, making too many drastic changes when it comes to the glove positioning if it's working for them, even if it looks weird. I've had goalies that literally, like, if you guys are watching on YouTube, they kind of have like the elbow up, kind of rotated hand, like on their shoulder type deal. And I've seen goalies do that it really doesn't work for them, and we adjust and we make the change. But I've seen goalies that do that, and it actually, they're snagging pucks left, right, and center. So as a goalie coach, who am I to tell them that that's not working for them? Because it is. Right. So I find sometimes there's maybe a little bit too much focus on some things that don't actually move the needle too much when there's bigger fish to fry. And then the other thing is like I said, I think sometimes there are certain goalie coaches that things worked so well for them when they played that entertaining the idea of something else potentially working as well doesn't really click, right? And so a big thing with goalies out there, if you find yourself in a situation where you're kind of being told to do something and it's just not working out for you, maybe I think the first step is to ask for some clarification, because maybe you misunderstood, or maybe it's just the way that they're explaining it like didn't click, or whatever the case is, because there could be some merit to what the goalie coach is saying. But if there's something that really isn't working for you, you've tried it out, it looks like it's good, and you gave it an honest try, not just like a 2-minute try and note that doesn't work for me or whatever. um, have that discussion, because I think the majority of goalie coaches out there are open to the discussion, as long as you go about it the right way, not saying, hey, your technique sucks, I'm not doing it. Like, just being like, hey, coach, like, I honestly feel like this is awkward, it's uncomfortable, and I find I'm getting beat lots. Is there something else that we can do, or can we tweak this a little bit? Or, like, do you notice anything I'm doing wrong? Like, it's not working for me. I liked it better what I was doing before. Can you help me out a little bit? And I think most goalie coaches will be open to that discussion. But they don't know if you don't say something too. Like, I can't speak for everybody, but I know for Connor and myself, we love having that back and forth. And it's good that the goalie's actually thinking about it and, kind of giving their 2 cents. And, we want to work with you to find the solution, not kind of, debate back and forth, kind of get into an argument. It's more kind of that collective discussion to find something that works together, right? It looks like Emerson has a question. Like, hey, my hand. uh, but yeah. So I don't know if you kind of have anything you wanted to chime in on that, or kind of build off of that at all. But
Yeah, everything that you said is wrong. And so just completely throw everything that Nathan said out the window. No, so I feel like I have to defend my position every single time that we talk about cookie cutter goaltenders, and it's not that I don't totally disagree with the phrase, but I disagree with the phrase. I think too many people generalize that as it has to be done this way. These are specific ways, you have to make saves, and this is a specific way on how you have to, move and square up on the puck and everything else. That's not what it is. What it is just like you have the basic foundation of goaltending: good skating, good tracking, good positioning. And then you can make certain tweaks about it from there. That's essentially the whole point of it. We know, Nathan and I know people too well that are like that. It's like, no, it has to be this way. You have to look like Carey Price. You have to look like Jacob Markstrom or Andre Vasilevsky or whoever, because this is what works for them. Not always going to be the case. And so just the phrase of cookie cutter goaltenders just bothers me so much, because that's just not what it is at all. Have to have good foundations, have to have good skating, good tracking, good positioning, good angles. And then you can, make tweaks and make processes from there. So is it, fitting the mold of what the highest standard of goaltending is to start when you're first starting out? Sure, but then those tweaks can be made gradually as it goes on. I remember this past season with my Double A team, where it was not an argument, but it was always a conversation, between me and one of my goaltenders, where it was, hey, this isn't working out for us right now, let's make this tweak. We'd go and run a few reps and be like, Okay, how do we feel? Oh, like this, don't like that, or I'm not entirely sure about it yet. Okay, let's go back, run a few more, just get comfortable with it. Or we make tweaks about it, as we go, essentially. So there is always that dialogue. It's never really my way or the highway. Nathan and I can know some know some goaltenders and goaltending coaches that are like that, but just again, I always trace it back to having proper foundations, having proper just goaltending knowledge, and then you can make adjustments from there. So just yeah, just the phrase cookie cutter goaltender just it bothers me so much.
Yeah. Well, and that's there's a foundational set of non-negotiable skills that every
Right.
goalie needs to have. But and I guess that kind of is where people get the cookie cutter thing from. Like, I think a lot of it too is just the people that want to see goalies stand up and pad stack again because for some reason they
Yeah.
think that that is a superior way of goaltending. But anyways, I digress. I think, yeah, the biggest thing is it's the outside edges of your game that come around that non-negotiable foundation. And even with the non-negotiable foundation, there is still some variance in the way goalies approach it and the way that it works for them. Um, Especially since you think about, like, even just something as simple as size differences, like the way a tall goalie moves around the net is going to be slightly different than a way a shorter goalie moves around the net and all that. But the thing is I find that too many times, um, there's there isn't as much personalization as there should be when it comes to goalie coaching. And I also think that one shift overall that needs to happen when it comes to goalie coaching is letting goalies figure it out a little bit more than we have traditionally, and getting slightly away from the structure that we traditionally have had with goalie sessions. Because it's always like, I'm shooting here, you're pushing here, blah, blah, blah. It's predictable, which isn't what happens in a game. And it's the same thing with our approach to the foundational skills and just like how we approach the game in general. For the most part, we want to follow a script, but then there is a little bit of having to improvise that needs to come into play there as well, right? So um, that's kind of, I think, just the general message, I guess, is if you're a goalie coach out there, take a look at some of the hills that you've been dying on and ask yourself if they're actually worth dying on that hill, or if there's maybe some leniency there, and depending on the individual things that your goalies are bringing to the table. And then same thing with you guys that are goalies, take an actual thought as to what you see the pro goalies or the goalies that you look up to, whether it's junior, pro, college, whatever the case is, and the way they play, ask yourself, well, yeah, that works for them, but is that going to work for me? And maybe the answer is yes, and you can try it out and great. Maybe the answer is no, right? Like, not everybody's going to be able to be as flexible as Vasilevsky is and be able to hold their edges when their knees are an inch above the ice. And same with Bobrovsky. Um, but at the same time, some goalies are going to be like that. So a goalie like that shouldn't play like Aiden Hill. And a goalie who's like Aiden Hill shouldn't play like Vasilevsky. And if there's a goalie coach out there that's trying to make everybody a Vasilevsky or everybody an Aiden Hill, it's not going to work. And so you guys also have to take onus on yourselves to be like, okay, what can I take from videos, from courses, from goalie coaching sessions? What can I take from those that are going to work for me? But also understand that it's okay that some things that you are being taught or that you see don't work for you. And most of the time, it's okay to make adjustments to that work for you. as long as you're still finding ways to be efficient, you're still finding ways to get results and get the job done. So I'm not saying that, oh, well, coach told me to have my hands up and in front of my body. Well, that's uncomfortable. That's a lot of work and my arms get sore. I'm just going to keep my hands, resting on the top of my pads. Like, there is some things that, yes, you have to do as a goalie to be successful, but just some of those kind of edge skills or whatever you want to call it, those ones kind of more on the perimeter that really define who you are as a goalie, there is some leniency there and you don't have to force something that doesn't work.
Yeah, you kind of nailed that already. Like there's a thousand different, there's a thousand plus different ways to play the position. But yeah, there are some non-negotiables for sure, and there are some negotiables, but they have to make sense at the end of the day. That's the biggest part. I remember one goalie in particular that I was coaching who always had his hands tied to his hips. Never understood why. Always kept getting beat on the sides because he had those holes open. And I kept telling him, "Get your hands off your hips." Would refuse to do it and would kept wondering why he was getting scored on every time in the game, but kept making those saves in practice. So I mean, as long as as long as with whatever it is that you're doing, as long as it doesn't interrupt the basic fundamentals of the position of goaltending, is if it works, it works. But again, like I said, like as long as it doesn't interrupt the basic foundations of goaltending, and you're able to back up the claim of here's why I'm playing the way that I'm playing, or here's why I'm doing whatever it is that I'm doing that is making me successful. As long as you have that, again, that show your work essentially, right? Um, we're all good with it. But if it's not working, and we can see that it's not working, and it's hindering your ability to make saves, or it's costing you or the team goals in big moments, well then yeah, we have to make those adjustments. It's not boom boom boom, my way or the highway. Essentially, it's there has to be some malleability there, and that's what makes the best goalies turn the goalie coaches.
Yeah. I guess the best way to sum it up would be if it ain't fit or ain't broken, don't
Or don't
fix it.
fix it. Yeah.
But at the same time, if it is broken, then
Yeah.
figure out what you need to fix. So,
Do you
um,
think just I'm thinking about it here live, just do you think there's you know because you know establishments such as ourselves with True North goaltending, and goaltending coaches in general, do you think because they rely so much on the successfulness of what we see at the amateur, pro, and pro areas, that um that's why, you know how do I want to word this? That's why we see such stubbornness, I guess, for lack of a better term, with, hey, have to have fingers pointing straight up, as an example, or hey, have to have toe bridge on the post. That's a fun discussion that I like to have all the time. Just, or anything along those lines, where it's hard nosed, hard pressed set, because we've seen that success in the amateur, pro, and pro leagues. Be just there's a quote from young Sheldon. It's funny enough, where they were talking about punting on fourth down. Well, why do we have to punt on fourth? Why do we have to punt on fourth down? Well, because everybody knows that you have to. Everybody says that you have to. Well, why does everybody knowing something make it right? You know what I mean? Like, you get what I'm saying from there. So just like, do you think just because of, like, hey, this is because this happens, everybody has to do it?
I do think that's part of like why some guys get so focused on a specific way of doing it. Like, I think there's various reasons why, and it's going to change per individual. Like I think one of them might be past success. Like if there was a couple goalies that really took off and yeah, maybe made it to the NHL or something like that, or high elite levels. Um, there could be a bit of okay, this worked before, so now I'm sticking to it. It could also be a little bit of this worked for me when I played, and because it worked so well for me when I played, this is the way it has to be, kind of thing. And then part of it, I think, might just be sometimes an ego thing, right? Just like what I find sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes with guys that do get stuck on specific ways of doing things, it's because they almost want to have like that quote unquote like trade secret, or they want to have something that sets them apart for the sake of having something fresh or different or new or whatever the case is, right? And sometimes that can work, but a lot of times, like I think we've gotten to the point with goaltending that we've, at least in terms of the statistics of it, like the probabilities of things, we figured out what the highest percentage way of playing most situations are. Yes, there's a lot of variables, and yes, there's still room for improvement, but I don't think we've gotten, like, I think we've gotten to the point that I don't see there being any major, like, somebody comes up with a massive game changer that's their proprietary, I coined this and now I'm the guru of goaltending kind of thing. But I still think there are people out there that have that mentality that they can find that, or they can be, and who knows, maybe that does come. Maybe somebody does stumble upon something and it changes the face of goaltending as we know it. But I don't know. I think for those reasons is kind of why some guys get set on certain things. So a bit of what you're saying, but I think there's also a couple other things that play into it as well. But yeah, I do think goaltending in general does suffer from a bit of complacency and a bit of historical bias, as opposed to, trying to play for the current game, the modern game. Sometimes there may be some traditional set ways that are still out there. But yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
that kind of answers your thought or
Yeah,
question.
yeah, I get, yeah, in a way, yeah. I just again, I've been fortunate enough lately to not have that. I know, and I remember early on in my coaching career where it's not necessarily a back and forth, but it's more I'm trying to convince you know somebody to get out of their set ways, and they're like, oh, I'm doing this because whatever, because certain goalie coach said to, or whatever. And then I just keep thinking to myself, it's like why does somebody knowing something always make it right? You know what I mean? It's, just always be open to new ideas, and sometimes it may work better than others. And Nathan, you and I have both seen it on our side where we see something well, we know isn't working. We go and they change it, and sometimes it's either the parent or the goalie or whoever just gets so offended by it, and then they end up going back to whoever it is that they're working with before. Which, hey, not a problem about that, but it just it just kind of makes you wonder, like, are you just going back because you didn't like a new way of thinking, or
Yeah. Well, and that's like the thing that I think the biggest thing to keep in mind with this is whoever is telling you this could very well be right,
yep,
but they're not right for you, right? Like whatever they're saying to you might not work for your game. And that is something to keep in mind. If you are struggling with a certain technique that somebody is teaching you, it might and there's a lot of variables in this, so we're not saying this is the case all the time, but it might just come down to the fact that that way of teaching or that specific skill or adjustment or whatever just doesn't fit you personally. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're wrong, but they, like, whoever is teaching you this should be able to recognize, hopefully, when something is working for a goalie or when something isn't. And that is something to keep in mind too for you guys, because like we've talked about before, you guys are your best goalie coaches, right? You know yourself better. You know what works best for you for the most part. I mean, yes, guys like us from an outside perspective who have the experience and the knowledge can for sure give you lots of tips and advice and guide you. But I mean, I can guarantee that there's things that I've coached goalies on that they haven't taken with them through their career. And there's probably other things that they did, but certain things that I said to them, probably they just said this didn't work for me. And another goalie coach told me this, which works better, so I'm going to do that. And that's kind of why we've talked about before, having multiple voices. You can still take things from each person that you work with, even though there's varying levels of skill and you know the ability to teach and to coach. Most of the time there's still at least something you can take that's a fresh perspective, because we all kind of have our different ways of seeing the world, our different experiences, right? So there's usually something you can take from everybody, even though everything that they're giving you maybe doesn't work for you. So that's just something to keep in mind too.
Don't always have to be loyal to one person. As a matter of fact, I'd rather you didn't. Both in the sporting side and on the world political side, but that's a different conversation. But yeah, no, there's more. We always say it. More tools in the toolbox, the better. And that's just what's going to help make you successful. That's what's going to help you succeed. So I don't know, just something that I know that we've been talking about a lot and something that we see a lot of. And it's always just a rinse and repeat cycle. And we'll get there one day, but you know.
Yeah. All right. So what do you got on your end for us today?
Oh,
Do you got the fire extinguisher ready? You might get a little heated.
I gotta barricade the doors here. Okay, goalie parents, let's have a chat here for a second. I love you guys. I love the conversations and the back and forth. That we get to have. But y'all are crazy sometimes. No. So my segment today was just something that we've been thinking about is, are goalie parents getting in the way of their goalie's development? And you would think that the answer is like a resounding no or a resounding yes. Nathan and I have seen both sides of it, where there's a goal where we have goalie parents that are too overly involved, want to, not question every little thing, for the under the guise or the sake of understanding. But they just kind of get in the way of the actual development of what's happening. And we've seen goalie parents who just couldn't give a damn about their kids' actual development, and just kind of pick up, drop off. You don't really stay, sit in the stands, whatever. So this kind of goes out to to those goalie parents today. There isn't anything wrong with wanting your kid to succeed. There isn't anything wrong, with wanting your kids, to be successful and to be the best goaltender that they can be. But they have to do it themselves. You can be there for support. You can be there, for somebody to just to be there and to listen and to learn at the same time. But when you start getting in the way of the development and saying like, no, this isn't what it was like when I played. Oh, what's the matter? What's the matter? You okay? Yeah, I'm gonna be that goalie parent that's gonna get in the way.
I got Mario to come out with Hayden the other week.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it was our goalie development session with the Aces, and
Oh,
I'm
okay.
like, oh, there's one on the other sheet in Devon at like 15 minutes later. I'm like, I'll go to that one. Mario can go to Hayden.
Why did I thought I was supposed to go? I'm
Well,
offended.
yeah, but I'm pretty sure you were working that day
Probably.
because that was last weekend. Weren't you working last weekend?
No, I wasn't.
Oh no, you're in Calgary.
Yeah, I was in Calgary.
Yeah, so you were
If I didn't
gone.
know it. All right.
That's what it was. I knew you were gone, so I didn't even bother asking you.
Yeah. All right. Okay, what did I just end with?
Uh oh, lost connection to server.
Oh,
Oh
he's
no.
frozen. Oh. Hello. Nathan, I don't know if you can. Oh, okay, he's gone.
Oh god. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, your audio is a little late from your video, but
Okay, well, here,
so I guess let's just start off with this. There isn't anything wrong, like I said already, like there isn't anything wrong with wanting to be involved in your kids' development. You have to kind of let them figure it out for themselves. There kind of has to be that dynamic back and forth with goalie coach and goalie. There doesn't need necessarily to be that third party insert in there. However, with that being said, especially for younger goalies, kind of closer towards like the U11, U9 area, maybe even U13 as well, depending. Um, there can be that echo, I guess, from the goalie parent, just echoing off of what what the goalie coach is saying. Um, it can go the other way very, very quickly when it's the goalie parent that is, I don't want to say questioning, because that kind of just negates everything that we were just talking about. But when it's constantly questioning what the goalie coach is doing, it can in a way kind of create that doubt of the goalie itself. If mom and dad's always getting involved, is the guy that I'm working with actually good or not? Is he actually helping? Kids kind of imitate off of their parents. Not entirely sure what's going on in my arms here. I've never once done this, but it is what it is. So the other side of it as well is when you have a goalie parent that's not involved whatsoever, it makes it kind of difficult, in the same breath of, is the goalie actually working on what he's supposed to be working on outside of working with us, right? With working with the goalie coaches. I know that there are some goalie parents that are like, oh, I don't understand it, I never played goalie as a kid, or oh, I don't want to get in his head, I don't want to mess up whatever it is that's happening, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, too, as much as we always preach about, goalies have to be their own best goalie coach, the role of the goalie parent in particular always helps in some way, shape, or form, whether it's just somebody to listen, just to kind of the goaltender talk to somebody, and so then they can kind of figure it out in their own head, and then there can be that back and forth, especially when it's people like that, or Nathan and myself, I don't have a goalie yet in the system, but Nathan does have a goalie in the system, and I'm sure as Hayden will grow up, he'll kind of ask questions or he'll have ideas that he'll want to kind of bounce off of you. And then there's that dynamic, right? You don't want to be, you don't want to be overly involved, but you don't want to be under involved either. The best way I can always say it, and we've talked about another practices, geez, we've talked about another podcasts before as well. It's just kind of just talk to your goalie. Hey, how did practice go? What did you learn? Oh, hey, I don't know. Hey, you're talking about being in position, versus being square. Aren't they the same thing? Can you describe that to me? Or kind of get your goalie's mind working and ask him those questions, even if you don't have a lick of what he's talking about, but just ask those questions. And if you do have that goaltending knowledge, kind of maybe throw something back about him. Oh, hey, what about if I'm in this position? Am I right or am I wrong? You know what I mean? But it can't just be, oh, your goalie coach is telling you to stay square to the puck. No, how about you be 3 feet off to the left? Oh, we're okay. Be 3 feet off to the left, and you can just extend your block. I'm being extreme, obviously, but that's the general idea. It's like, oh, hey, goalie coach told me to do this. I need to drop down in my butterfly when the puck's below the waist. Goalie parents will be like, no, when I played, you have to stay standing. Do the good old Cujo kick save or whatever. Right? Like that's what you don't want to be doing. You want your goalies to be engaged. You want your goalies to be involved, and you want them thinking. That's how they're going to grow. And then if there's anything that they want to bounce off of, and if you want to kind of help engage in that, or even just as well, if there's a question that a goalie has, but he's not entirely sure how he wants to word it to his goalie coach, parents can step in and help them word that question. They don't want to be the one going and asking that question for them. You know what I mean? So we want our goalie parents to help, not hinder, a goaltender's performance or a goaltender's development, rather. And we also don't want them to hinder a goaltender's performance as well. If you're that goalie parent that likes to hang off to the side and just kind of be by themselves, whatever, that's totally fine. But really don't want your goaltender to be distracted by you there. Right? Don't want them always looking for mom and dad after a save. Don't want them always looking for mom and dad after a goal. Anything along those lines. We need our goaltenders to focus on their development. We need them to focus on the game and what's happening in front of them.
Yeah, kind of the best way I can, I don't know, I guess compare this is it's the same, or not the same, but a very similar approach to like the head coach and the assistant coach, right? When we talk about like role in a goalie's development is the parent. Now, you just add the fact that the parent needs to be a little bit more supportive, obviously, and a little bit more involved than the coach or the head coach, assistant coach, whatever. But the reason for that is the most hindering thing that goalie parents can do is the same thing with the coaches, is the general blanket statements like, oh, you need to stand up more, you need to try harder, you need to get quicker. That's when like before I started True North, when I was coaching for another entity around the Edmonton area, I was helping out with a camp, and one of the kids was zooming through our skating, like just going balls to the wall as quick as he could, and everything was wrong. Like technique, hands were all over the place, like no rotations, nothing like that. So I stopped him. I'm like, okay, we need to get our technique down, and then we can speed it up. So you need to go slower. We need to get our proper rotations. We need to have our hands in front, all of that stuff before we push. Then we make our push and go. And as we get that down, we can speed it up. And he's like, nope, my dad says I need to be faster. So I got to be faster. And I'm just like, because that's also one that you just know you're not winning that conversation. You're not winning that battle, right? Because when he gets in the car on the way home, he's gonna like dad's gonna be like, you look slow out there, you need to be faster. And because kids around that 24/7 pretty much at home, he's gonna listen to that voice as opposed to our voice for the, you know, 10 hours that they get over the week at the camp or whatever it is, right? So um, the blanket statements, those ones can do a lot of harm because, as we've talked lots before, goaltending so situational. There is no one good answer for everything. It all depends, right? So that's one thing that we need less of from the goalie parents. The other thing too is kind of blowing things out of proportion, both on the good and the bad side. So, like, us goalies, we know when we weren't great. We know when we've let certain things in. We also know when, you know, people are almost, you know, kind of being a little condescending or something like that. Like, oh, you played so well. And we're like, dude, I got pulled after 4 goals on 5 shots. Like, don't patronize me, right? Like, you know, whatever. Like, I get you're trying to help your kid and bring him up and support him and stuff like that. But we're also not naive. And it kind of is worse when we know we didn't do good and people are trying to be like, oh my goodness, Timmy, you did such a good job, blah, 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 right? Like, yes, be supportive, but be like, do it in a way that was like, hey, you know what? That wasn't your best game, but that's okay. You've bounced back from poor games before. It happens, right? You're not going to be on every day. It's fine. Push through, battle hard, and come back at her again, right? Like, that's more helpful for a goalie than just sunshine and rainbows all the time. But at the same time, if you know, your kid gets into the car after a 3-1 win and you're sitting there like, man, that goal was terrible. Like, what were you thinking? That's also not helpful too, right? So that balance between realistic but supportive, that's kind of what really helps out where you guys can actually be involved, but be involved in a useful way is, you know, like Connor said, being that sounding board. Like after they have a tough game and they want to vent about it, be there to help them vent about it and just say, yeah, you know what, now you know what to do next time. Go work on that in practice and be better for next time. It's all good. World's not crashing. It happens. Let's get another kick at the can. And then I guess like the last thing on that front too is just make sure we're not also kind of messing with your goalies mentally, because that's a big thing on the development side too, right? Is the day of a playoff game being like, oh my goodness, this is such a big game, I hope you play well, like blah blah blah, like building those nerves, you know, that sort of stuff can be hindering to a goalie when you put a lot of pressure on a certain situation. And then the other thing is too from that front is you know, if you are a little bit overbearing, if you're really involved, if you're always on your goalie, sometimes, like Connor said, they make a save or they let a goal in and they're looking up in the stands, looking for dad's reaction, looking for mom's reaction, right? And that messes with them mentally because then they're not focused on the game. They're not ready for that next shot or they're worried about what you're going to say afterwards, right? Yes, you can chime in. Maybe you can say, here's one thing I thought you did well. Here's one thing I thought you could have done better in the game afterwards and leave it at that or something like that. Like if you want to be involved and have a little bit of say there, you can do something simple like that and that works well. But it has to be that nice balance of, yes, we're involved. Yes, we're being supportive, but we're also letting the professionals do their job and they're the ones that can help your goalie develop. So let them do their job and then chime in if something is egregiously out of line. Like if you have a goalie coach that's screaming at your kid every session, then yes, you need to step in for that, right? But if you have a goalie coach that, you know, maybe sees the potential in your kid and is trying to push them a little bit to succeed, like push that bar a little bit, push them out of the comfort zone, and maybe they are getting on them a little bit and lighting a little fire under them, if it's, you know, constructive and it's, you know, providing a good value, then let it be. You don't have to step in every time.
just shut the bleep up sometimes. Like
Yeah.
that's that's all you just need to do is just be quiet. You know, just golden rule. If you got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we both know that that's not going to always be the case. We all know that there are going to be goalie parents of said goalie or other goalie parents on the team that will always have something to say, whether they think that they're being helpful, but in reality they're being hurtful, or just not being helpful in general. Um, it's going to happen, and the best sometimes just best way just to deal with it is just take it with a grain of salt. Don't give it any life. You know, unless there is something to it, but generally 9 times out of 10 there's not. So sometimes we just need to just move on with our day and just be like, okay, whatever, and move on with the next one. But that's the other part of goaltending as well. Is like we like to white knuckle hold on to these things and kind of let it fester and um, yeah. But I don't know. Just that's just been something that I know that I've been thinking about lately, and just sometimes the Facebook groups that I'm in make me sad, but
Yeah.
whatever. It is what it is. I'm not technically a goalie parent yet, so what leg do I have to stand on? But you know,
Yeah. Well, for me, Hayden got his first, I guess, like league win yesterday
oh, there we
morning.
go. Look at
Um,
him.
yeah, they won, I think, 9-4 or something like that. Actually, the goalie they played was fantastic. He was so good for being 6 or 7 or however old he is. But yeah, that's as someone who is a goalie parent, I was even telling Connor I got one of our other coaches to come out for a goalie development session for him because I'm like, hey, I'm dad for the most part, and I think it's gonna have to be sometimes that there's some other voices involved on the development side. So there
Yeah,
was 2 skates going on at a twin arena for that we were doing development for. So I said, "See you later. I'm going to the other team," and got one of our coaches to be with Hayden and his goalie partner. So yeah, I mean, you know, I'm a professional goalie coach and I'm still trying to stay out of my kids' way a little bit. So, I guess if that helps you guys out, then, you can take that for what you will. But yeah,
I
it's,
would love to get Brian DeCord on. I've reached out to him and he's read my message.
yeah,
Never
we're,
answered me.
we're small fish.
Yeah, but would love to get Brian DeCord or another goalie coach who has a amateur pro or pro goaltender in the system and just get their perspective on it and just maybe kind of share their insight or their words of wisdom, especially being somebody like Brian, who's very well respected and very well known in the goaltending community, and then subsequently his son Joey, who's I think he's a starter for Seattle, but one of the top 2 goaltenders for the Seattle Kraken. They work together on a semi-regular-ish basis, but just would love to know what their dynamic is like. I'm sure there's probably videos on it somewhere. Could probably
Yeah.
find it. Where we'll reach out to our contacts with In Goal Magazine, but just would love to just to kind of get their relationship and see their dynamic with that, because I think the relationship that those 2 guys have with each other, both family wise and goaltending wise, can would be super beneficial and super helpful for any goalie parent, goalie coach who's a goalie, who has a goalie in the system. How many times can I say goalie in one sentence? But
Take a shot.
but that's just the but that's just the idea, right? So
Yeah. Well, that's one that's closer to home that we could maybe try and get on is Jason LaBarbera because he's
Oh yeah.
his yeah, his kid's playing or played U15 triple, I think, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure his kid made Alberta Cup and is playing in that this weekend. But
Oh,
yeah, he's the Flames goalie coach, former NHL goalie, obviously. So yeah, maybe we'll try and get the Barber on. We can run that by him. So,
I'll see what
but
I'll see what strings I can pull. But yeah,
yeah,
on
there you go.
Facebook, Jason, can
Yeah,
you come please? But
uh, Jason
sweet.
Derulo. Um, anyways, you want to take us home unless you got more to add?
He's not going to come on now.
Yeah,
He's not coming on now.
yeah,
No, I got nothing else to add. Hopefully, there were some takeaways from both segments for goalies and goalie parents today. I would like to do a more technical episode at some point. It's kind of hard to do in the audio format of things, but just with some of the things that we've seen in the NHL playoffs this year, I think kind of doing like a goalie breakdown or just something along those lines, just maybe picking apart one play, I don't know, in particular, and just kind of maybe dissecting that a little bit would be a lot of fun.
yeah. Yeah, we're starting to free up a little bit on the time, and that's gonna go entirely to building content, whether it's pod or I actually am going to do something with Connor's vlog one of these days soon. I promise that. It is on my list, and it's slowly climbing the list. But yeah, that's we're going to be leaning into the content for you guys, and kind of that's one thing that Connor and I have talked lots about for this off season. I know it's already almost May, which is ridiculous, but we will crank some stuff out for you guys. And yeah, well, like we said, we'll try and get some more guests too, so you don't always have to hear our takes on things and kind of listen to us drone on all the time. But yeah, we'll keep working on that, and yeah, have some exciting things coming down.
All right, well, that is a good place to end it for today. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening to the DIY Goalie podcast presented by True North Goaltending. Make sure you guys follow us on your favorite social media platforms, whether that is Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, Twitter, whatever that may look like, all of which is at True North Goaltending, except on Instagram because we like to be different. That one is YEG Goalie Coach. You can follow myself on Instagram over at MondayGC. Go check us out, TrueNorthGoaltending.com. Our new booking system, like Nathan was saying at the top of this episode, is live. So all that fun stuff over there. You guys can book with Nathan, myself, or any of our other fantastic staff members that we do have at True North Goaltending. Also at True North Goaltending as well, our week-long camp is officially filled. It is booked. There are no more spots. However, we do have some spots available for our 4-day camp afterwards. Think most of our spots are filled already, so make sure you guys jump on that if you do happen to find yourself in the Edmonton area and want to work with myself and Nathan. On top of that, we do have some spots, as far as I'm aware, available with our beginner goaltender camp. That is the
August 8th and 9th.
August 8th and 9th. Thank you very much. So we do have some spots available there. So go check us out, TrueNorthGoaltending.com. And lastly, if you are a ringette goalie and have been struggling to find development for yourself or for your ringette goaltender, we do offer that as well with our dedicated ringette goalie coaches. That is the weekend after our 5-day. It's our 5-day camp. That is the weekend after, right? Because it's
No,
the
it's
same
after
week
the
as a.
4-day, because that's why the 4-day one is 4 days, because we have the Friday for the ringette. So the ringette's August 21st to 23rd, the Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
There you go. So make sure you guys head over to TrueNorthGoaltending.com. Book your spot now. I think we're the only goaltending firm in Alberta, or at least in the Edmonton area, that offers ringette goaltending coaching. So go check us out, truenorthgoaltending.com. If you are listening on your favorite podcast platforms, whether that is Apple, iHeart, Spotify, or wherever it is that you get your podcasts, if you are a returning listener, thank you very much. Make sure you hit the share button. The more goaltenders that we are able to bring together, the better. Same thing with the YouTube side of things as well. If you're a returning subscriber, hit the like button, hit the share button, all that fun stuff. If you are a new listener or viewer to our little program, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button. We release new episodes every Wednesday morning. And with that being said, on behalf of Nathan, myself, and Emerson Monday, this has been the True North Goaltending DIY Goalie Podcast. I've already screwed out the outro. I'll see you guys on next one. Make some saves. Take care.